What's going on, boys? Today we are talking a bit about ENTJs, and we are thinking a bit about extroverted thinking. We're talking more about the latter, but I've noticed putting ENTJ in the title gets more attention. You're aware FE types pay attention to and have a proclivity toward adapting themselves to their immediate social surroundings. They pick up on people's expectations and then bend toward them or resist. In either case, they are paying close attention to them. I'm realizing TE types do something similar, but instead of noticing and contending with expectations in their immediate social surroundings, they pay attention to cultural expectations at large. Whatever culture you're in is going to develop archetypes based on that culture's and its populace's values. Let's say an ENTJ grows up in a wealth-obsessed culture. This culture values and rewards wealth beyond just wealth. Social rewards, renown. Something I've noticed in ENTJs is many want to be remembered. And vaguely, that's a common enough goal, but once you start strategizing how to get people to pass down your legend, even once technology collapses, written communication collapses, that's beyond what most people mean when they say they want to be remembered. Speaking of succeeding financially and wanting to be remembered, links in the description and the pinned comment. Buy one of my stories. In such a culture, an ENTJ or a TE inclined type is going to model themselves after the archetype that earns money, ergo renown and resources, so they can get that social approval. But that approval works differently, or TE social approval, or the perception of social approval, works differently from FE's perception of social approval. FE sees, I like you and I mean it, and feels good. TE sees, you are what people should be, and feels good. This is why ENTJs in general are often mistaken as money hungry. They aren't necessarily money hungry. Many are, because of the era we live in, but in different cultures, or following different archetypes, an ENTJ might become a magnanimous, holy zealot. An ENTJ might try to save the world by organizing hands-on activism. Or an ENTJ might become the antithesis or antithetical archetype of whatever is popular, specifically to court counterculture. Instead of becoming something completely different, they become the opposite, because the opposite always has energy to be collected or renown to be gathered. And this in part goes back to what we were talking about last time. This is a smaller auxiliary archetype or role I can play. There's a striking number of ENTJs who like performing S&M, but it's the institutionalized version, and they weren't born with the urge. This is something they are eccentric with, intricate with, but it's something they picked up. It's a role they play. And with ENTJs, you see this kind of thing elsewhere. What roles might I play I wouldn't necessarily have gone out of my way originally to get into, but I might be suited to and rewarded for. And this isn't to say ENTJs or TE types are inauthentic. It's more like TE has abilities and needs. And although these archetypes and roles are roles, they are often suited to that individual's FI. And this is where we'll jump from TJs to FPs. ENTJs or TJs can seem odd to other types or even to each other because they may appear to have no identity outside the collection of roles they're playing. This is less common in FI tertiaries, but it's still there. Their FI still often seems more informed by their roles than by its own identity. The lower your FI is, the less TE types seem familiar with who they are, at least from the outside. And that's where these big, strange identity shifts in FI types come from, particularly low FI types. One minute, they'll be my career is my life guy or girl, basing their identities around that role, but then they get a taste of parenting, realize on a spiritual or values or FI level they like it, and then they swap archetypes from hyper CEO to super dad or super mom, and they approach that archetype with the same vigor they were approaching their previous archetype. And from the outside with them, it looks odd. Maybe it even looks and feels odd inside. I think this is because in most instances, they are focusing more on the TE reward system than they are on their FI. FI ultimately calls the shots, that's why they'll make such an abrupt change, but it doesn't change the fact they are expressing their FI through a role rather than through themselves. And they are now taking this new role super seriously because they want that reward, that TE social reward. But then you compare them to FPs. Let's use ENFPs as the easy example. ENFP, rather in touch with their FI, believes helping people is one of the most important things in the world. So one week, they attach themselves to the mom friend archetype. They call themselves mom friends. They call themselves that specifically multiple times to a bunch of people, enjoying the fact they are expressing themselves through this culturally generated and appreciated role. But they aren't super good at it. They are bad at reading other people's needs. So ENFP tries to be mom friend by giving their friends what the ENFP thinks they need. It's kind of pushy and forceful, it pisses people off, but they are technically still helping people. The expression is working, but it's not a great fit. So the next week, they learn of another archetype, the violent activist. That archetype is still helping people, but it also incorporates force. In fact, force is expected and rewarded. So they swap identities entirely to suit this archetype, and now they are the violent activist 100%. And it is a much better fit. This shift isn't as odd as the ENTJs because the ENFP is swapping archetypes all the time and has more personal investment in the role. Not exactly the role itself, but the aspects it allows them to express. They're focusing more on actualizing their FI than they are on the TE reward system. Now, it's still there and it's still important to them. That's why they're in everyone's face about what they're doing and why they're doing it. But the roles they're playing are closer to what they know they want, rather than just whatever is culturally gratified. Again, that is still a goal, but they are better at knowing what they want to pick. versus an ENTJ practicing law and earning lots of money because that's just what you do. Until they turn 50, realize what they actually want, and then hard shift into something else. Or find what they actually want or what they think they want much, much younger, too young, and hard shift into another wrong thing. Wrong for them anyway. This video's point. TE is just as socially concerned as FE is, but it's more concerned with society as an organism in relation to its FI, whereas FE is concerned with smaller parts of society, small groups, in relation to what TI thinks is right, correct, rather. I think TE plays social roles to get social rewards, resources, while trying to figure out which roles will express whatever FI wants to express best. Buy Hangman, my most recent story, on Amazon. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. Thank you to the people who bought my stuff recently and last year. I was waiting to put together a thank you until we sold double what my very, very first self-publishing project sold/gave away. But it didn't happen until now. So, delayed, but on track thank you. Like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes, and comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. What do you think about extroverted thinking and roles and self-expression, all that? I'm curious. Thanks again for watching the video. Really, we have a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun, in fact, you can roll it in the dirt until all the fun sticks to it. Because sticky dirt is fun. That's what I have on this channel, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.